All right, so this is what you're gonna see within the course. The module one is essentially setting the context. So why Internet of Value? I have like three versions of this. So I thought, and each of that has evolved over a period of time. The first is in December 2025. I think the second one was in May 2025, and the next one is a little earlier, Feb. Um, So this is to make sure that people also understand how this thought is evolving and how the concept of the Internet of Value or the ideology of the Internet of Value is becoming more and more relevant and refined over a period of time. As always, welcome a good thought out critique and what can be made better. Now, in general, what you have to understand is there's going to be a PDF, there's going to be a small context about what that particular chapter talks about. And this is an interactive installation. So for people, all right. So basically, whatever that PDF talks about, you can explore that at a much deeper level or in an interactive way. But I'm assuming people who are here would like to read the text first and not given to these kind of distractions. But this could be a good review of sorts. Then comes what makes the system. And here we are introducing two characters, Arjun and his daughter, Serafina. Arjun is the person who's going to take us through his life journey. And by following his life from birth all the way till he's 70 and thinking on his balcony, did I do the right thing by moving back to India and trying to quantify communities? But in that journey, right from childhood, schooling, undergrad, startup, then postgrad. For postgrad, he moves to the US, and from postgrad, he joins an investment banking firm and takes a company for an IPO. And post IPO, then he joins IMF. Then the questions posted by his daughter, Serafina, makes him think about how the state and the market are being quantified, but the community doesn't have a common layer of quantification. So he comes up with a model, comes back to India, tries to implement it, fails at it. And all these stages, we are trying to see what's the state, what's the market, what's the community, and his individual identity, and how all these four things are evolving: individual, state, market, community. The moment we understand these four things, we would understand the system. So that's why we are looking at it through his life. Then comes the interesting part. So it's structured as 4 weeks. The reason being, so once he comes back to India and he fails at quantifying communities at a larger scale, his daughter, who has seen both his parents at the higher echelons, now tries to become a stand-up comic. She moves to Bangalore, and she sees this poster that says, "Hey, have you ever felt that the system sucks?" Then she scans the QR code, and then it takes her to an offline installation in Koramangala. Now, this is where the reality and fiction kind of meets, because I used to have an offline installation of this idea, the Internet of Value, but it was limited in space. But because this is a digital area, we are now able to expand it, and each of the segments within this installation is now expanded in the reader's mind through gestures. And so the way it's structured is week one is problem contextualization. So every day she, along with few others, enter the installation. The author takes her and the team or the group through that particular day's concepts. And because she's a stand-up comic, she has this, constant cynic mindset or a comic mindset of making fun of whatever the author is saying. And she goes back home and she creates a reel out of it and posts it on her Instagram handle. So that's how every day is structured. So week one, so she would enter. The author would say, what is the current state of the system? Looking at it from social, technological, environment, economic, political, legal, math. And then where is the system headed? And who is steering the system? Should we trust them? So think of it like each day one concept, and at the end of the day, there's this kind of comic version of the same. And everything is gonna have the same as in the PDF, the text, and then there is an interactive installation for each of those things. Huh? So should we trust them? Who is they? Who am I? So this is where the flip happens. So we can't trust them is what our general understanding is by looking at history, because the state and the market are essentially finger pointing each other. Oh, you fix it. No, you fix it. And the community is kind of caught in the middle. And we're like, man, what is this thing that's happening? As an individual, we feel helpless and hopeless. But the moment we flip it, because the state and the market are essentially made of people, we flip it and we say they are nothing but us, a collection of individuals, and us is a collection of the eyes, right? So this, then who am I from a very philosophical standpoint to a very tangible transaction level standpoint? Because as far as the system is concerned, we are a bunch of transactions that we are making with the system, whether it's with the market, drawing salaries or like doing a time log and whatnot, everything is a single transaction. And the goods and services that you're buying and everything, right? And as far as the state is concerned, it's much more abstracted level. And so the moment we understand that we are transactions, then we are like, oh, what is this transaction then made of? How do these transactions even move? This is where understanding internet at a very fundamental level comes in. And every week's seventh day is a summary of that particular week's concepts, but it also gives them and the reader to assimilate what has happened. And there is a clear actionable in terms of why we have to move forward. That is week one. So we have contextualized from the system, this big abstract thing called the system, to this state, market, community, and the individual as institutions and individual, and bring it down all the way to what this I or individual means as far as the system is concerned. So then the problem becomes manageable, because now it's one person that we are talking to. And every reader is that one person, right? So the second week is all about, okay, now that we have realized I'm just a bunch of transactions as far as the system is concerned, how do I become a conscious player of the game rather than an NPC, the non-playing character? Which is what, the like plugging out of the matrix. Once you understand the matrix or the system, should you plug out or plug in consciously? So my argument is we have to plug in consciously. And we go in as, where do we plug in? At a capital level or at a labor level? And then how do we then represent ourselves, which is labor representation? And then understanding what are the parameters that's going to go into that. For that, we have to understand time, data, and well-being, and who is monetizing that. From there, we come to well-being identity. So the I that we are trying to consciously build has to holistically lead up to something called the well-being for an individual standpoint, because then we can optimize it. Because the moment you are able to represent something and you keep on stacking transactions on this representation, then you can quantify it. The moment you quantify it, then a market can be built on top of it. Then you can index it, you can speculate on it. And it's not a question of because it's already happening. Without well-being score, we have credit scores, and the market is quantifying each one of us through credit scores. And then there are speculations that are happening on top of it at a org level, typically, right? So 10, 100 people are part of a company, and they all have credit score, they all have productivity, and then the company is then traded and whatnot. But in the crypto world, even at an individual level, to the extent of what kind of color shirt that, let's say, Putin is gonna wear for meeting Trump, and then people are speculating on that. So this will become, it's already there. The plumbing is already there, but the data that's going in, can we shape it is the question. So the indexing part and speculating part. And then, like every week, the seventh day is when all this is coming back together. We're like, okay, so what did we learn this entire week? So I started off as an NPC. Now I'm becoming a conscious individual. How does this labor move in the market, the labor market frictions, and then what kind of identity will remove the labor market frictions? But is it really about removing labor market frictions or about optimizing for my well-being? Then well-being identity built ground up. Then uh, what kind of score will I get? How will this be speculated over a period of time? So that ends week 2. So we have brought the problem to 1, and from here we are building up, right? So now the individual is represented. Then we have to see, can we come together in a better way than being part of the state or the market, or being part of the market and state, but can we create our own safe or safe enough spaces, which is where communities come in. So you have to understand. So when we go into this direction of, okay, I'm becoming this, I'm optimizing for this well-being, it's very easy to get bogged down into this idea of over optimizing at an individual level. But we realize we are not, no man is an island. So we have to be part of a collective. And can we now create this collective in a better way? So we understand that, why I can't reach my peak alone. What are we building instead? How do we, so the community is the answer, but the word community is, abused a lot. So we try to understand clearly, what is this community? How do we birth it? How do we incubate it? How do we value it? And how do we trade it? Then the question is, you're not now part of one community, you're part of multiple such communities. So that's where you become a constellation. And then what is connecting all this? So you are here, you're part of multiple such communities. And then, so in the installation or the walkthrough, there are multiple other people, right? So there'll be another person, they'll be part of multiple communities, and certain communities could overlap between you and the other person and whatnot. So what is connecting all this is fundamentally the math. So this is where we introduce this VC equals WVCOM, which is the fundamental math on which all this rests. And then because now you're part of such things, the constellation kind of connects with each other. That becomes a network that essentially forms the internet of value, because at a fundamental level, we are connecting everything to how an individual's time/value is going into the communities and multiple such communities forming a network itself. Then obviously the thing of, okay, now that the community is quantified, valued, speculation can happen on top of it. And speculation is a feature, it's not a bug. If we are not going to speculate, someone else is going to speculate. All this will be clearly explained as you're coming to this level, you would have understood by then. And so now in week 3 is day 7. Now they are trying to form communities in the installation itself. So it's not just Serafina, right? She's with a bunch of other people. So she's now trying to create her own communities and see if she can find allies in that community. So as you're reading through the book, or the course, you'll also realize that you are building up your well-being identity. You are understanding what kind of communities that you have to be part of or you want to create, and you're also trying to find your allies. So that is week 3. Week 4 is where now all this theory is the rubber hits the road. That's what it is. So here, we go back to the first week thing of where is the system headed, and there we would have created few futures for the current way of how things are going. Now, because of internet of value, it could create a fork in this future. Does that mean we created a black swan event? We're asking ourselves that. And what could that future look like, right? And then obviously this theory has to be tested by putting in debates with different people, right from Adam Smith, Karl Marx, Keynes, Friedrich Hayek, Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell, Thomas Piketty, and John Nash as well. The reason is also to theoretically and mathematically justify whether this Internet of Value stands the test of debates. Because a thought can only propagate through debates organically. Obviously, you can propagate it through money, but eventually it'll come down. At some point, you're going to collide with another person's thoughts. And then it's really about convincing people. And the best way to do that is through dialogues, but a fun way to do would be through debates. In the dialogue, debate, diatribe, and discourse. Yeah. Anyway, so once we have now debated all these people, then immediately the ego could swell up and it'll be like, oh man, we are this revolutionaries, blah blah blah, us, because now we have created this bunch of communities, a bunch of people that you see as allies, and then you're like, okay, now finger pointing at the state and the market. That's a typical mindset that we will go into. So we are trying to explore that mindset, and we really understand that the communities cannot stand on its own. It has to add value to the state and the market. And the job of the community is to balance out the state and the market. So it's really not about us versus them. It's us and them. That convergence would happen. Then for each of you reading this, it's a call. Now, do you want to invest your capital or do you want to invest your time? Invest your time is the communities that we already have. The time that you have already invested in going through this is the first step. But if you want to invest your capital, then what's the way that we are thinking about Internet of Value as a nonprofit foundation and Community Venture Studio as the for-profit arm, which will birth and incubate communities around skills specifically. And then those will add values to the state and the market. And the last question is, do you dare to move? So now that we have understood, contextualized the problem, brought it down to an individual level, built up the individual, identity and the transactions and the communities that they can be part of, and theoretically debated. Next question is, where do we start? All about taking the first step. And there's a very nice story around it in this chapter as well. Now, so this kind of completes the entire arc, but we also have the gratitude series where, all the 60 people, actually it's 0 plus 60, so 61 people and papers who have inspired me on this journey. And there are certain collectives, like family is like one, and friends are like one chapters in this whole gratitude series. So these are I would say, the virtual gurus that I'm dedicating this book to, or this ideology to. And then finally, if this all makes sense, then you would want to know who this person is. Who's Moses Sample? What's his story? Why did he spend so much time doing all this? Yeah, and some people would like to start here. Some people would like to understand the output first and then try to, if the output is worthwhile, then they'll try to understand the person, which is how I think. That's why the author's note is towards the end. But it's all here. You can like mix and match between as to how you want to go about it. So that's this whole thing about the Internet of Value, the course. So because usually when we say it's a course, then people would ask, am I going to get a job? How is it going to help me and all these things? I'm assuming that you have come to this through one of the other videos that I would have sent to reach out to you personally, or someone else would have sent it to you. So the point is, you're not going to get a job, you're going to get something better, which is you would know who you are, you will become part of a collective or the community, and most of all, you get access to the biggest story of this decade that is going to be written in real time by publishing this to the world. As always, thank you for your time, and I'll see you inside one of the communities of the Internet of Value. Thank you.